Hey, this is Meredith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. Well, we're a couple of minutes late, completely my fault. I apologize about that, but it is time for Sales Logic. We come to you every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Last week, Mark and I got to be together because we were hanging out in Denver, Colorado, but today we are back in our offices, getting back to work.
Hey, it is great. You had a great week, National Speakers Association. Meredith is the chairperson, and let me tell you something, she did an outstanding job. She has every right to be exhausted. Great show. Let's go.
All right. All right, welcome back to Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to sell effectively. Now, before Mark tells you how the show works, I apologize. I like to tell you, before he tells you what's up for today, I like to tell you how the show works because we want you, the audience, to be engaged. We start off every week with a question from you. We cover a hot topic, we recommend a book, and because we want you to leave with return on investment, we have a lightning round. So, Mark, what is on tap for today?
Well, the topic is how to sell when the market shifts. The question comes to us from John in San Diego. He writes, I'm a bit of a news junkie, and watching this week, everyone is talking about the stock market going down and interest rates coming. I work in the restaurant industry. Is there anything I should be doing to prepare for the change in market conditions? Or should I say how my customers will be impacted? Great question.
It is a really, really good question. I mean, then add on top of it, it's an election year, right? I mean, so you've got I've heard everything from interest rates are going to once the Fed starts making a cut, they're going to drop, drop, drop. You've got the global economy. For those of us who are listening to us globally, your markets are doing the same thing. So I would say the short answer to that is yes. What you're doing by being a news junkie is seeing the warning signs that the marketplace is getting ready to shift. Now, that means that your customers are going to need you more than they ever needed you, but how you go about selling to them does need to shift.
You know, I'm going to argue a little bit on being a news junkie because we can get too caught up in the news. Hey, I need to know what's going on in my business industry. I need to know what's going on. So, John, all the right to be the. But if you get too caught up in it, then you become too emotionally connected. Let's just look at this week alone. We saw the market fall precipitously on Monday. But then by Friday, it had come back and almost recaptured its entire loss. So in other words, here's the deal, John. Your customers don't want to hear you complain. They want to hear a positive voice. You have to go in and be the positive voice because sure, there are going to be restaurants. There are segments of the restaurant industry that are struggling, but there are also segments that are doing very, very well. And you've got to just make sure that you are always the bright light, bringing ideas and advice to your customers.
Yeah, and I'm gonna argue a little bit. I love the fact that you're a news junkie. And the reason I love the fact that you're a news junkie is because I think one of the worst things you can do is to be an uninformed salesperson. And the understanding interest rates are a great example. If you've got a client that has loans that are going to come for a call in the next year to two, the very fact that interest rates may fall, that's good for them. There's opportunity there. That's positive things. They may have some that's going to increase their cash flow. There's going to be opportunity in the marketplace. Let's do the flip of that. Inflation. If you watch the numbers this week, the travel and tourism and the restaurant industry, that those segments that the news had been telling us were growing and were doing well and not to worry about inflation, they dropped. The spending in those areas dropped. And so that says that if you're in the restaurant industry, they may be in for a little bit of pain. And you need to go in and help them learn to navigate that. So it's using the information that you get to help them still figure out how to grow their businesses.
You bring up some good points there. And add on that, look at your industry and begin breaking things apart. Let's use this restaurant industry again. The single largest cost that they incur is labor. Second is going to be food cost. So you sit there and say, hey, how can I help them with those two costs? Now, John, we don't know what segment or what it is that you actually supply, but think about it in the terms of if you're a restaurant owner, and applies to anybody in any business, put yourself into the customer's position. How are they looking at their business? What are the challenges they're facing? And that's the lens with which you need to look at. So, to be a news junkie, yeah, you be a news junkie. I just don't want you to get carried away and get emotionally caught up because, what's interesting is emotion is a trait in sales, but boy, emotion carried too far can just drive you through the floor very, very quickly. I love selling in difficult periods because just as you said at the top of the show, customers need us more than ever when times are tough out there.
Yeah, and I think that I think what you want to do with, what I love about the fact is you're obviously well informed. And to go into a sales call and say, I understand what is happening in your industry. I understand that, interest rates are looking to fall. It's probably going to be a positive for you. Inflation's got customers kind of tightening their belt. Tell me what's going on with labor for you. You're able to go in and address the problems and the concerns. I think to sell effectively, you have to know what is on the mind of your customer. And to know what is on the mind of your customer gives you what you need to open the door to opportunity for them.
You know what? And another angle here is think about this. Your competition is reading the same news. They're seeing the same things and everything. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if some of your competitors are, sky is falling. And guess what? That means there's some market share for you to grab. There might be some new opportunities for you because I'll tell you what, again, a 2-watt light bulb looks pretty good in a dark room, and you have the ability to be that 2-watt light bulb right now. So jump on it. And I'll tell you what, one thing to keep in mind, always make sure that you're fundamentally listening to the customer first before you go sharing any information with them. Because you got to understand where their headset, where their mindset is at first before you chime in. Because otherwise what happens is you have a risk of polluting the well or going opposite. Example, politics right now.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, left, right, which side are you? The last thing you want to do is jump into a conversation and going in one direction just to find out that the person is way over on the other side, regardless of which side it is. Be very, very careful.
Yeah, I love what Natalie is saying here. Start each day and learn new ideas that you can share that will help your customers. That's right. Be one step ahead of them. You need to understand the industry better than they do. I'll give you a great example. I'm just starting to do a little bit more work in the manufacturing space. And to tell you the truth, I don't really understand right now how the global economy is going to be impacting the manufacturing industry as we move into 2025. So I'm spending the time right now doing the research so that I can go in to be an informed salesperson.
That brings up a really good idea. This is where AI, whether it be Chat GPT or Copilot or whatever, can give you some insights into the industry. But also look for a couple of those industry experts. Every industry has got one or two experts who just put a lot of content out there. Study what they're saying. What do they have to say? And learn from that. And guess what? Then you can be educated. Chances are ahead of your competition very, very quickly.
Mark, I'm curious, given things going on in the marketplace, are you doing anything to shift your sales strategy at all right now?
Well, yeah, I'm expanding my prospecting list. I'm doing more outreach. I mean, I have to, but I'm also going in deeper with my existing customers because I know that my existing customers can do two things for me. One, they can bring me more business themselves or they can refer me to others. So I'm kind of taking it at both ends. And I think this is kind of a rule that we all have to apply. I would imagine you're doing the same thing or something similar.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say another thing that I've added is that I had a meeting yesterday for an hour and a half, really doubling down and working pretty heavy on my brand. I feel like I want to put myself out there and be more visible as somebody who understands and addresses these issues. Because you have to understand that when the market shifts, customers go looking for solutions, and you want them to find you as the person that has the solutions given what they're going through.
You bring up a good point there because you got to be out there, but we got to be absolute clear as to what our brand is. And you may work for a company, you may not control the brand, but you control yourself.
Mhm.
You have to make sure that you bring absolute clarity. And this is something, Mary, you talked a lot about. It's absolute clarity in your messaging. So I'm gonna say, hey, the key here, John, is that you got to make sure that any social media post, anything that you're putting out there, is absolutely on track. Because, as you said, Mary, it gets busy out there and people get looking, but it gets noisy. How do you cut through that noise?
Yeah, I would say another thing that you need to pay attention to right now is that, again, it's an election year here in the United States. It's also an election year in 70 countries around the world. Most of those elections are as volatile as ours is. So look for and expect sales to slow down in the third and the fourth quarter, because business owners, decision makers, will not be sure as to they're gonna sit a little bit to see where the election turns out. Now, why do I mention that? Because you need to make more calls than you've ever made in third and fourth quarter. Because the moment that the decision is made, that pipe will open back up. I mean, it'll be like it'll go from dead stop to moving at 120 miles an hour. And if you didn't plant the seeds in third and fourth quarter, you're too far behind. Like what I'm telling you is the moment the decision is made, decision makers will be ready to move. Once they understand the landscape, they'll be ready to move. And if you're just starting the calling process, so I mentioned that because when a marketplace shifts, and one thing that we're going to experience in third and fourth quarter, we're already starting to see it mid-August, is decision making slow down. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be. It's understandable. If the election goes one way or the other, it means very different things for your business, and both can be positive and both can be negative.
Now,
And I oh, go
yeah,
ahead. No,
no,
go ahead.
no. Keep in mind, what Mayor has just said, because Mayor, you are absolutely spot on. But the worst thing you can do is stop selling. If you stop selling, and I saw this back in '08. Remember, we had another one of those R's back in
Mhm.
'08, '09. There were organizations that downsized and said, "Oh yeah, we will add people once the economy starts, getting stronger again." And what happens is they're always too late. You've got to remain out there selling right now. Don't stop, because again, you're going to be too late. But here's the other piece. Are you selling consumables, or are you selling a CapEx item? Hey, if it's a consumable, guess what? Customers still need to buy. They still need to hear from you. They may be buying less, but they still need to buy. CapEx, yes, CapEx items could be deferred, waiting for the election, waiting to see what the economy is. But that still doesn't mean that you stop trying to get the sale across the line, because you got to stay out there.
Yeah, you've got to, if I were managing a sales team right now, we would literally be sitting down and talking about the fact of really getting very clear on those prospect lists and who we need to focus on. And I would be really coaching my sales team not to worry about the goal in third and fourth quarter, but to focus far more strongly on the behavior. That's personally what I'm doing in my business, and why we're really doubling down, expanding the prospect list and things like that. I don't expect to have a really, really strong third and fourth quarter. I might, but my expectation isn't there. But I expect to have stronger behaviors, and I expect to have a very strong first quarter.
Thank you for bringing that point up, because here's the thing. Anytime business gets wonky, you have to make sure you stay focused on the long term. If you get focused on the short term, you get sucked into the vortex, and you're going to spiral down very quickly. You have to remain focused. This is what I see in top performers all the time. They may be selling for today, but their eye is always on the long term. And long term, like you said, Maris, that first quarter, you're probably going to have a great first quarter. Terrific. You're not sure on third and fourth. Now, how does that play out if you say, I got to make my number in the third and fourth quarter? It does play out because here's what I find. If I focus on the long term, it changes my focus even short term. And I'm a little more balanced. I'm a little more stable. And you know what? I'm going to hear and listen better. And I'm ultimately going to close more sales. Mayor, I think you're going to wind up having a pretty good third.
Yeah, I absolutely might. Again, my expectation isn't there. Stacy, I love what you're saying. When people stop selling, it allows your competitor to get ahead. Somebody is going to be knocking at the door. Somebody is going to be there. The other thing, and you've heard Mark and I say this so often, your customers remember who showed up when times tighten. If you happen to be in a market that is getting hit, that there's always early markets, right? And then the lags, the ones that get hit later. If you happen to be in an early market, maybe your sales do slow down, but it's important. It's really, really important for you to show up. I kind of wonder too, when we're talking about being a news junkie, are you paying enough attention to the global news? Because you've really got to realize that your customers are most likely impacted by a global marketplace. I know for me, I've been amazed at how many of my clients, their suppliers came out of the Ukraine, and the war in Ukraine really, really, really impacted them. So you need to be paying attention in those arenas as well.
That brings up a point because there's so many key things that are happening. Depending on when you're catching the show and so forth, we are recording this right now, and the Olympics are still going on. And then in another 10 days or so, the Democratic National Convention begins, and there's all these factors. So here's the key thing: balance yourself, understand what's happening out there, but always make sure that you be the positive voice. And I know I'm the optimist, but be the positive voice for your customers, because the last thing they want to do is hear from negative Nelly. They got their own problems. And here's one piece that I love doing. If you hear something that is absolutely good going on, make sure you share that with others in your industry. In other words, you may have one customer that's doing something great. Share that with it. Now, mask the name, don't reveal proprietary information. But one of the things that I found this every time when I used to be selling in an industry and we go through ups and downs, when I could tell one customer some positive news about another customer, it just lightened their day. They were enthused to hear that somebody else was finding a way. So please be the positive voice to the customer and the industry.
Yeah, I love what Bill Snow is saying here. Don't overanalyze. Just do it. I think that, I think my biggest advice when the marketplace shifts, I agree 100% with Mark that you've got to be the positive voice, and you have to be the informed positive voice, because if you go in positive and you don't understand the pain that they're going through, it sounds insensitive. Yeah. And so you have to acknowledge what is going on in the industry and what is going on in the marketplace, and then show them the path of how to be successful in that arena. That that you've got ideas, that you've got solutions. I also want to say, when the marketplace shifts, understand that the immediate sale may not be you, and what I mean by, you really have to go in with a heart to help your customer. And some of their immediate needs may not be the products and services that you deliver, and that's okay too.
I like that, because it may not be. You may be referring them to somebody else. You may be getting, but you know what? You're still making a sale of your personal equity, and celebrate that. And you're helping the customer, and long term you will win. Zig Ziglar always used to say, the number one way to achieve your goals is to help enough other people achieve their goals. And in this time, this is what you absolutely do. Keep your head on straight. don't get caught up in the sewer pipe, so to speak, and you're going to be okay. Hey, you ready to talk about the book?
I am.
Hey, we both have our books right there. I love that. Yes, I got home last night and boom, this book is sitting on my desk. I had Christy on my podcast the other day.
Oh, great.
Absolutely insightful book. And of course, the foreword is written by our good friend, Mike Weinberg.
So tell me, I haven't had a chance to dive into it yet, but here's what really caught my eye is the playbook for setting your income and owning your life. I mean, how much better is that? I'm curious, just some of the highlights you talked about on the podcast.
Well, the highlight is it comes back to your mindset. I mean, it's something that I talk a lot about. And if you don't frame your mindset up right, you can't achieve anything. And it comes down to being able to do the block and the tackle each step along the way. So it really is. It's a great book. You know, it's interesting. As I was interviewing her, I was wondering, is this for beginning salespeople or experienced salespeople? It's for both, because I tell you what, if your headset is not in the game, it's not there. And any book that has a foreword written by Mike Weinberg, you know, it's going to be genuine. And
absolutely. All right, lightning round.
Lightning round. Top 10 ways to build your sales confidence. Go.
Since we were talking about mindset, the energy that you put off right now is so important. People are attracted to people who are confident. So I would say number one, building your confidence. You need to really, you need to start your day every day with some form of routine that gets you centered, whether you meditate, whether you pray, whether you sit in silence, but do something to ground yourself.
I love that, because how you start the day is how the rest of the day is going to go. Number two, filter what you're putting into your mind. Filter. In other words, hey, be a news junkie, limit it, control it, contain it. Don't get caught up in one extreme or another. Make sure you're focused on your end goal, helping your customers.
Number three, to build your sales confidence, try something that forces you to take a little bit of a risk. Push yourself out of your comfort zone, because we build confidence from doing things that we didn't believe we could do.
Play the long game. And as you play the long game, still celebrate daily successes. Every day, celebrate your successes, but keep your focus long-term.
Yeah, to build your sales confidence, number five, set a goal every single day. I mean, really put down and say, this today I'm going to accomplish this, and this. And then at the end of the day, give yourself, a kudo for having accomplished those things.
If you ever get down, pick up the phone and call one of your existing customers. You know what? They're going to pick you up. They're going to tell you how great you are. They're going to tell you how great your company is and how great your product is. Build your confidence by talking to some of your existing customers.
Yeah. Number eight, role play. If you want to build your confidence, role play.
Number nine, be careful of who you associate with. You don't have the opportunity to allow negative voices. This is why being part of a group, you and I, Mary, we talk a lot. Why? Because we help build each other up, and we help you can never go through life solo. You got to go through with a team.
Yeah. And number 10 is, if you want to build your confidence, realize this is a holistic approach. You need to be making progress with your health, your spirituality, your relationships, your finances, and your business. You need to approach your whole life if you want to build a sales confidence. Princess, I love that you are here, and thank you so much. I love what you are all saying, because you're essentially encouraging leaders to think like risk managers. So well said, Princess. One simple thing that people can do is set up a watch system. Identify the info sources that help you keep up with the trends that impact your customers. Beautifully said, beautiful advice. All right, Mark, we are at the end of the show.
We're at the end of the show, but want to remind people, Sales Logic Mastermind, jump out to Sales Logic Podcast. In fact, this coming Monday, we have a mastermind call where we're going to be walking them through the Sales Logic Intel Engine to really showing them how to prospect early. Remember, I was saying I'm going to be expanding the number of my prospects, and we're all looking for that. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So, hey, Sales Logic Mastermind, excellent tool for you. With that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, Subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Something we've said has earned you a single dollar. Consider telling a friend about our show because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. We'll see you right back here next week for another episode of Sales Logic.